Hi, Rama. Nice to see
Hi,
you
Eva
again.
Cruz.
Our third
What is
time
the second
seeing each
time
other
today?
today. I'm so happy. The best day of my life.
You're welcome. You're
Okay. I think I see Tony.
I saw
Yeah.
Tony.
Hello. Hi,
I saw
Paula.
Desiree.
Yeah, I see Tony.
Okay, I see. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
adding them.
Yay. Hello.
Tony. I'm going live with Tony.
Hi.
Hi,
Desiree.
Desiree.
Okay, we did it.
Hi.
What's up?
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pin the comment and let some people join in here.
And I just want to make sure you guys can hear me clearly, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
We can. Hello, hello, everyone that's joining in. I'm just pinning in our comment here where you can access free HIV and STI testing along with COVID-19 vaccine and testing.
Tony, someone wants your shirt.
They can actually purchase the shirt on surfacelevelpodcast.com. So
Put it in the chat.
You better plug.
I want one.
I love it. Has to be these nails that's taking me so long. All right. In comment. Perfect. Oh, 4. I think we've only got 4 once.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. Okay, well, hi everyone. Welcome back to Whitman-Walker's Live. You know, we've been doing this for, I think, since the inception of the pandemic. Well, 2019, and then the pandemic came, and we haven't stopped. So here we go. Today, as you all know, is National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. So we have a very, very special lineup for you all today. We'll start by introducing ourselves so you can know who you're talking to. My name is Rama, and I work over here in the Community Health Department at Whitman-Walker Health. And my pronouns are she, her, hers.
And my name is Ifu, and I use she, her pronouns as well, and I'm on the social media department here at Whitman-Walker.
I can go next. Hey everyone, my name is Tony Germain, and I call myself a storyteller. I feel like that's what I was put on this earth to do. But my day job is actually I work in brand marketing for Nickelodeon, which I think most of us have probably grown up on. So, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
And I'm kind of shy, but my name is Desiree. I go by she, her. I am a HIV advocate, also a makeup artist, and I'm actually in Lexington, Kentucky.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. We are so happy to have you all today, to have this conversation with us, to continue to raise awareness, and especially in the Black community. As you all know, we are disproportionately affected. So we'll talk more about that, get folks resources, put some education out there, health literacy, some prevention and sexual health, knowledge and content for everyone today. Something that's easily digestible, just a community conversation, from folks who look like you, so we can get started. So, Ibu, can you tell us why National HIV/AIDS
Yeah,
Day is
of
so
course.
important?
So, just like through the public health perspective, this day is really important because out of 1.2 million people living with HIV in the U.S., Black people actually make up 479,300, and that number, is changing by day. So we feel like these numbers are enough to show that there needs to be immediate attention given to the efforts that are being used to reduce the incidence of HIV amongst the Black population.
Exactly. And, for everyone online, just keep in mind that we have Black folks only make up 13% of the population in the United States. So those numbers are alarming. So when we say we're disproportionately affected and we are marginalized, it goes beyond our own personal efforts. It is a systemic issue. It is something that we need to bring to the forefront and continue having a conversation about. Every 100 black person living with HIV, only 74 of them receive some HIV care. 56 are virally suppressed. 61 were retained into care. So compared to the general population diagnosed with HIV, for every 100 persons, 76 people to receive some HIV care, 58 were virally suppressed, and 66 were retained in care. So it's just important. Those numbers, there's for everyone versus for our community, which is it's alarming. Again, the fact that we only make up 13% of the population is just like, how and why? Like, what can we do at the personal level, at the institutional level, and the systemic level to, really remove those barriers so that folks are accessing care to a diagnosis that is so manageable, which we will talk more about today with our guests.
Yeah, so like we mentioned before, we have two guests here with us, and we're really looking forward to learning about your individual stories. And we just really want to use today as an opportunity to amplify your voices. So, yeah, we're getting ready to get started.
Yeah, specifically our Black voices in honor of National Black History, HIV/AIDS Day,
Yeah.
and Black History Month. Hello, 3 days Black History. But let's get started here. So to start, can you tell us individually about yourselves? I'll start with Desiree, and then Tony, you can follow. Tell us, you mentioned where you're from and why you're an advocate for raising awareness around HIV/AIDS.
Again, my name is Desiree. I am from Lexington, Kentucky. I am an advocate for HIV and AIDS because at age 22, I contracted HIV. Shortly after, by the grace of God, I did obtain an undetectable, non-transmittable status within 3 months of my diagnosis. So I guess that's why I advocate, just to inform people, like, you never really know the direction that your life is going to take you, no matter what you go through, but the end result is always beautiful.
Nice. And so for me, so again, my name is Tony Germain, and I am originally born in the Bronx, raised in Virginia. So just to give you some background there, but I live now in Harlem. I'm in New York, and I've lived here for the last 10 years. And for me, why I'm an advocate for HIV/AIDS is because I feel that representation is so important, especially for our communities, Black communities, and for the LGBTQ community, which I'm also a part of. And in order to feel seen, I feel like we need to have an example and we need to share our stories. And for me, my hope is that through sharing my story, I can be an example for someone out there who is just like me, and I get to play my role in helping to eradicate the stigma and hopefully making someone else feel less alone in the world. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Are you going to skip your time in
Well,
DC,
I
Tony?
mean,
Wow.
I graduated from Howard University, so that's how Rama and I know each other because we go way back from we worked at Red Lobster together, which was my first job as a server. So those were good times.
Great times, great. And I actually met Desiree on TikTok,
TikTok
as you
shop.
guys know, Whitman-Walker. Was her content about just normalizing the conversation about access to care and HIV prevention. I was captivated by it. And I heard Tony's story via his podcast. But it was just illuminating to hear folks being so transparent and really breaking down the stigma and the barriers, just addressing like what it is and steps to take care of yourself and the community at large. So thank you for sharing that with us
Absolutely.
today.
Also, for people watching, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. But the next question we have for you both, could you tell us a little bit about, when you first learned about your diagnosis and how did that make you feel? If you can share a little bit about that.
Well, I was diagnosed in 2016. July of 2016, I was diagnosed. Like I said, I was 22 and it was new to me. I was terrified. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what my life, was going to be. It was new. It was different. But most definitely, I was scared. I was terrified, depressed, felt alone. Unlovable. It was hard. It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah, similar for me. We have a shared experience together because I also was 22 years old. And so it was 10 years ago. I was a senior at Howard University and I was devastated. I felt ashamed. I felt disappointed in myself. I was scared. And ultimately, like I felt that I came to the conclusion that it was something that I had to figure out on my own. And, you know, through figuring, like navigating this on my own, I just didn't feel like I had anywhere to turn. And so, you always hear about HIV and AIDS and thinking that it's a death sentence. And I was looking at myself like, how did I get in this, predicament? And for me, I think there was one glimmer of hope that I held on to, and it was that I saw someone out there in the world who looked like me, who had been diagnosed with HIV, and it was Magic Johnson. Like everyone knew about that story. So that gave me just a little bit of hope that I needed to think that, maybe I could somehow get through this as well. But it's still very challenging and very, very young, and, not knowing where to turn to and if I could share that information with anyone. So just a devastating time.
Thank you both for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I can only think that the societal perspective of what it meant to be positive, like what you knew prior to your diagnosis, probably added to that fear. How did you all break down that fear? Like, how did you get to where you are
Um,
today?
Let me go ahead. You can go ahead.
No, you can. So I think for me, part of the breaking down of the fear is just like dealing with it. I think it took me up until recently to actually talk about my status openly. First, the first it was like a couple of friends, and then in 2021, I talked about it more publicly through the platform that I had with my podcast. And it wasn't until I felt like, you know, that I had support with my friends and that I had a platform to use to be able to like tell my story and tell my own narrative and get ahead of it. Like that was part of my wanting to get on the other side of fear. I felt like after all of these years, I was living healthily, I was thriving. Consciously decided not to let my status affect me being great. And so just through like taking the baby steps, and it took me several years, and through having what I felt was at least a couple of friends to support me in that way allowed me to get to the other side of fear. And I also had in the back of my mind that if I could share my story, you know, someone else out there might hear it and be able to identify and relate, and they could feel like seen, which is what I wanted to feel. So Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I guess for me, um, just learning as I go, um, also learning to accept myself, um, and to walk in my truth. You know, this is my life that I have to live. So, you know, um, I chose to, step outside of my comfort zone and, like he was saying, just be an inspiration to others because you never really know what anyone's going through or, if you have similar stories, So
Right.
I guess it's selfless. Like I want it to be selfless. I want it to be um, an inspiration.
Yeah. And it sounds,
That's true.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Oh, go
sounds like you're
ahead.
both kind of using your story to create a support system for others around you. Like you both
Hmm.
said, kind of hard kind of finding that community. So you're kind of taking into your own hands and creating that support system for other people, which is like really awesome and very selfless. So that's like a really amazing thing that you're both doing. So the question we have was just like how important is the support system, and what tips do you have for people to find them? I know you're on TikTok, and then you have the podcast, but which other areas or which other ways have you found support systems if you don't have like friends or someone you can confide in person?
Right. So for me, I think that's a big challenge. I think, we're living as a Black person in America, we already have a tough time, right? And add being HIV positive, life becomes that much more complex. And so for me, like I realized that community is important, and I like if you want to find, I think if you can find just one friend, I don't like, it could be anyone. It could be someone that you work with, it could be someone you went to school with, it could be a family member. I think it's really important to try and push yourself to find that one person. Go online, like we have the YouTube, I mean, Google at our access. Like I encourage people to just do a little bit of research and try to find outlets. There are a lot of safe spaces out there, and I think, especially coming as someone from being in the LGBT community, like we talk a lot about safe spaces and how we have to create our own chosen family, stuff like that. And I realized that when I thought I could go through what I was going through alone and figuring out and navigating it on my own, while I had the power to do that, and while I was able to, thank God, I later on realized how important community was to me and is to me. And it wasn't until I gave myself permission to be vulnerable. I think there's a lot of power in vulnerability. And I think when you start to open up and share what's going on in your life, there are people around you who all they want to do is love on you. And you got to let go of the fear of someone taking you sharing personal information and them using that against you in any kind of way. I think 9 times out of 10, people are going to want to love on you, and they're going to want to help you in your endeavors of trying to figure out, what you need to do in order to get the help that you need. So it's a tough question, but I like to challenge people to just take some ownership and initiative on your own life. Like I'm a big Oprah fan, and she talks about how you're responsible for your own life. And when I heard that from her, I think it was on the finale of her show, but she says it all the time. It really put her battery on my back to kind of get my act together and figure out what I needed to do, and eventually start talking to people and letting them know what was going on with me, and then building my support system.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that. And, I do feel like it's important to build a strong support system and actually be open to having people around you that know what you're going through. I feel like on a mental level, like you kind of shut down. Um, you
Yeah,
kind of don't want to let people in because I've had people actually tell everyone, you know, um, someone I
yeah,
confided in a couple times actually, and it kind of made me like step back from that as far as like having that support system or who I consider to be a part of my support system. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as like family, mentors, even you guys, just reaching out and, you know, developing a relationship with other people who can actually be there for me and understand and give me sound advice on how to navigate through this.
Understandable. Thank you so much for sharing that. Speaking of taking your support system with you and like where you are and, accessing care, make sure that you're okay. Can you share that some challenges, if any, that you had when you kind of got into the medical space and like the healthcare space to get you on your ARTs,
Mm-hmm.
antiviral um, treatments and things like that? Do you face any challenges when you kind of try to find the correct doctor, the culturally sensitive doctor?
I didn't
You
have any
know,
challenges. I've relocated a couple times. My diagnosis was in Kentucky, and then a few years later, I moved to Indianapolis, and they both had the Ryan White program available for me. So, um, within being a part of that, also actually meeting my doctors and getting to know them on a personal level to actually build that trust with them, that I trust the medication that you guys are putting me on will do its job, and things like that. So I personally have not had any bad experiences.
we
Awesome.
love that for you. That's right. Yeah. Yes, Ryan White.
Yeah, so that's a blessing, to be honest, because that's not a lot of people's story. And health literacy, as Rama you mentioned in the beginning of this, is it's a real thing. A lot of us don't know what's available, don't know what we have access to. Personally, I my health literacy was not the best. And especially at that age, 22, I wasn't thinking about the doctors and health care. Young, you think like you're going to be in that moment forever. You're in college, you're not even thinking about stuff like that. So, and at the time I wasn't on my own insurance plan yet, and so I didn't realize just how expensive medication was, period. But when as it pertains to HIV treatment, like it can retail price, it can run you upwards of $3,000. And these are things that we don't know. But one of my saving graces was that I moved to New York immediately after graduating from college, and New York is one of those cities where there's a lot of programs in place to be able to help, you know, offset the cost that comes with getting treatment. And so I found a doctor who was a specialist in infectious diseases, and she helped me to get into a program that helped pay for the medication. This is before I got my first job. And I have since, heard many stories from people about the programs that exist that are in place. But also, I know that everyone doesn't live in a city like New York or a metropolitan city where there are robust programs. If you live somewhere that is in a smaller area, you might have, you know, a lot more issues to face when it comes to seeking treatment, or getting treatment, or even, when it comes to traveling, to getting time off of work to go do these things. Everyone's not able to do that. So I do realize how blessed we are, and I'm happy that we have, success stories, but I do want to just point out that so many people don't, and so that's why conversations like these are important.
Right. In addition to the medical mistrust, in addition to the lack of access, in addition to us not having access, I think, in our communities directly, like we can go, like if we look at
Hmm.
Ward 7 and 8 in DC, where are the highest, and which is where we have the most African American population, when it comes to all houses, barriers, the numbers are much greater there, and that's a lot about access and availability and resources. We say folks are underserved when honestly they're just under resourced. There's an assumption there that they've been giving something, that they've been given the resource and they're not taking it as the service, but no, the resource isn't in the space. So, entities like Tony mentioned, like Whitman-Walker, having that access, supporting folks, even if you are out of town, just need guidance as to where you can go in your community and in your respective state. Whitman-Walker can support with that, if you cannot come here. So please keep that in mind, folks who want to get tested, who want this treatment. And yeah, so while we're on that, health and all that, so let's talk a little bit about Tony's shirt, like, and like what these terms
Let's
mean
talk
to the
about
both of
it.
you.
So this shirt
Let the people.
is it's actually a sweater, and it's part of so I have this podcast that I started with two of my college friends, my close Judies, and we started this podcast because it was about representation and seeing the type of Black gay men that we are out represented, and we wanted to build a thing together as friends to talk about our experiences. And it's about creating a community for Black and queer folks where we're fearless in thought, we're curious at heart, we're taking what society has as their expectations of what it means to be Black and gay in America, and we're really flipping that on its head. And so we have a lot of merch that we've created, which is available at surfacelevelpodcast.com. But one of the episodes that Rama was mentioning that she heard me tell my story um, about my status with being HIV positive and living with it, it happened on I want to say season 2 of our podcast. And this positively undetectable because through research, and if anyone who's done a little bit of research will know that undetectable means untransmittable, and this is just a form of expression to live out loud, to be fearless, to have people see it, and some people who know, and the people who don't, they
Like,
it's
like
it's
girls like
I get it. And the
don't.
ones that tell you,
But
get it.
I'm really happy about where I am right now in my own journey of being just living out loud and unapologetically and wearing it right here on my chest for the world to see, and for everyone to join in who wants to do the same thing. We can all do it. So yeah,
Yeah,
positively
I love it.
undetectable.
I need to get me one. I love it. I support it. It's amazing. And
And, and that, I think, Desiree, that's your video that I saw that where you posted.
I'm
Oh,
here.
I don't know, did you lose her?
Oh, she's right there.
Uh-oh.
I'm here.
Could you, Desiree?
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
I think I had lost you. I think I lost you. I don't know if anyone else heard. But I was saying that your video about being undetectable and your story, essentially, like your journey with what was like, I was like, oh my gosh, undetectable, you equals you. Like it's so good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, trying to break down those barriers and like have people actually understand, you equals you. Um, it's important to me, especially, being a young single Black woman. Um, I feel like a lot of people misjudge me, um, and even within dating and explaining, what undetectable is. Um, some people get it, some people don't. And
Mhm.
I guess just with me being an undetectable person, just spreading awareness, more awareness in regards to, what it means.
Yes, yes. And for folks, undetectable, as they've both mentioned, you equals you. Undetectable means untransmittable. So essentially, when you stay adherent to your medication and your regimen, you reach an undetectable status, where it is you do not transmit HIV through sex. That's what the U equals U research is on. Feel free to look it up. Feel free to call us and ask more questions about it by the number that's there. And as you all know about PrEP and PEP as well, Ibukun, if you want to get
Yeah,
into that.
so we wanted to know, like, we've talked a little bit about, access to um, like the resources and just kind of educating yourself. What steps did you take to learn about, PrEP, PEP, treatment as prevention, and like how do you also talk to like the people around you about those resources?
So,
Okay, you can go ahead.
no, I mean, like, again, for me, when we talk about health literacy, like I my health literacy was kind of like non-existent. Like I would go to the doctor when, my mom would bring me or tell me like, you have a doctor's appointment. But through my own journey and navigating being HIV positive, just living in silence alone, I just went online and I found a doctor in the Bronx who specialized in infectious disease, and I found out about treatment as, what my options were when it came to treatment. And that's when I started to learn about what being undetectable means, and and that's how I get to live positively undetectable today. And I I often an interesting thing that I talk about with my friends and just people that I have these conversations with is that a lot of times people who are HIV positive, they're they're more on top of their healthcare than people who aren't, because we're going to the doctor regularly. We're getting our bloods drawn. We're having a lot of times a little bit more open transparency. I think there's a lot of stigma just with going to the doctor in the Black community. And in the beginning, when I would fill out papers and stuff, I was afraid of like, oh, I don't want to tell them all my business. But that's part of the undoing that needs to be done. Is like, no, you tell the doctor everything. That's the one person, like, you lay it all on the line so that they can, get you the proper treatment or whatever it is that you need. And so when I how I'm talking about it now has changed because I get to just be a little bit more informed. I get to have these conversations with friends or in social circles or just through my podcast, which has been a platform to amplify these conversations and for people to hear from Black queer folks who either have a lived experience, but even if you aren't HIV positive, it affects us all. And so it's all of our job to, be in this together and to raise awareness and amplify what's going on. So, yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
Thank
I
you.
agree. I feel the same way, really. More so, educating yourself so that you can share the proper education with other in regards to prep and art and things like that. Just that's what I did. I just took it upon myself to educate myself the best way I knew how. Um, One, for myself, because this is the life that I'm living, so I want to make sure that I am knowledgeable in this part of my life, and within sharing that knowledge with others. So I can definitely agree with everything he said.
So thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, I remember when you mentioned a lot of stigmas around the dating, Black folks going
Hmm.
to the doctors. And again, these conversations kind of just addresses that and talks about it and put in the forefront and like kind of validates, the hesitancy, but while still providing the resources that folks can access at their own, leisure. But it's important to make sure that we know the importance of getting yourself checked regularly and how having a diagnosis of anything is not the end per se. You taking the steps to access doing more labs, doing your tests, as you mentioned, coming for your 3-month regular checkups does allow for your provider to catch things like prevention. You know, early detection, as we know, is definitely key to a lot of chronic illnesses that folks have.
Yeah.
So thank you for definitely doing that. Okay, I have to go. So what would so just to wrap it up, I think Instagram
Yeah.
might cut us off at 45 minutes
Really?
unless they change that. They might. So just to wrap it up a little bit, if you all can tell us, you know, what you want the world to know about National HIV Awareness Day, what this day means to you. Just, you know, wrap it all up in one, and where we can find you, where we can continue to stay connected with you, and folks out in this space that want to learn more about your advocacy. Where can they
Okay.
find
Well,
you?
you guys, I'm on Instagram, Bougie Bay Desiree. I'm on Instagram, and I advocate more on my
Yeah.
TikTok page, which is Desiree, DEJA, Ray, RAE underscore C22. That's my TikTok. You guys can follow me on there. I do a lot of creative content in regards to educating individuals about HIV, and also where I do my makeup. But I guess what I would say about today for me personally, what a day like this means is just um, feeling empowered, um, realizing how far technology and medication has come. Um, Also, acknowledging how far I've come on my personal journey as far as healing and being open and authentic, speaking out about my life and my experiences with living with HIV. Um, Also, you know, just, I just, this, I'm sorry, it's just so new to me. Like, all of this is so new. So just taking it all in. Also, even just, you know, realizing like how powerful and inspirational today is. Like, I'm kind of a
Yeah.
little lost for words, but um, it just means a lot to me, really. That's all I can sum it up. It just means a lot to me.
It means a lot to us that you
Yeah.
came on.
Yes, I love it. And this is like you said, it's all new, and for me too. Like I've never, like when Rama asked for me to join this panel, I was like, I get to do something like this, and this wouldn't have been the case if I didn't take it upon myself to finally decide to share my story more publicly, which is not for everyone, but I felt something in me that I wanted to do. And so when I think about like what does National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day mean to me now, it means that we get to continue having a dialogue and get to talk about these topics that are historically have been taboo in the Black community, and we get to flip it all on its head and take control of it. Um, and for me, it's important to continue doing work that helps other people that look like me or can relate to me, helping them to feel less alone in the world. I really do think that all people want is to feel seen. And if I can give them just a little bit of encouragement by allowing them to see someone who's out here, who's thriving, who's living their life, who's not letting their status, pigeonhole them or box them into what they can and cannot do with their life. What I want to tell the world about HIV/AIDS is, and this is about HIV/AIDS, but just generally speaking too, I want to tell people to have more empathy and compassion for others. You never know who is around you that is struggling with something that may or may not um, they may or may not have shared their story. And so words matter, and people should just be more aware of how they're talking about things as it relates to HIV/AIDS, as it relates to mental health. Um, I think I just want people to just have more compassion and think about it as if it was someone, when you make it personal, I think people realize, or they can draw some sort of empathy and compassion when you tell them to like think about if it was your brother, your sister, your mother, your cousin, whoever it is, just to kind of make it more real for them, because until it's directly affecting people, they tend to brush it off or they don't think about it. And lastly, where you can find me, so you can find me on Instagram at Tony underscore Jarrell, Jerrell. And you can also find me on Surface Level Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, or surfacelevelpodcast.com. And you can hear more of my story and my friends and I, and we're trying to do our part to continue these kinds of conversations. So stay curious.
Thank
Stay curious. Yeah, I love that. Um, Thank you both so much for sharing the platform with us today. And we really hope to continue to this partnership with you all and continue talking to you all, sharing the work, sharing your advocacy. It's extremely, extremely important. And for everyone out there, I hope you really enjoyed and learned from a riveting conversation. The importance of being vulnerable, accepting yourself, and seeing yourself is extremely important. You deserve the care, you deserve the access, you deserve to tell your story. You are unique and you are important. So continue to educate yourself and be mindful of your surroundings. Make sure you get tested, know your status. Seek HIV care if you need to. If you have a loved one, call out to us. We will definitely be here to support you. That number is below for you to contact us. You can catch us on social media and all social media platforms at Whitman-Walker, our Real Talk DC page. We have to continue to advocate for the rights of marginalized communities, especially Black and Brown communities in America. Especially folks living with HIV and just those trying to access the healthcare system.
yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
Thank
you
you
guys.
so
guys.
much.
Bye.
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 Bye.